The Weightlifting House News Show is back with a bang because this week we have some incredible lifts, one of which was actually picked up by ESPN. We've seen lifts above world record levels. We also have new weight categories again, which we will talk about in full depth. We're going to run through the top 5 lifts from the European Junior and Under 23s competition. And finally, I have picked what I think are the top 3 lifts of the week, and I need you to vote for them all down below. That'll be at the end of this week's episode. Alright, so I've probably got a list of maybe 15 to 20 lifts that I think are incredible. And I'm going to kick off with the one that ESPN picked up. But what I would like some help on, now that I bring the news show back to you, is how you'd like these to be organised. Do you want them to be organised by, we go through a single weight category, the best lifts in that class, the best lifts in this class? Do you want it done by country? Do you want it done by continent? Or do you just want it randomised? Today it's going to be randomised. Next time, let me know what you think would be most useful. Okay, so before we get into the specific lift, which was picked up by ESPN, a quick reminder that the Weightlifting House Black Friday sale is now live. You can get up to 40% off on the apparel and accessories that are chosen by champions. We'll put a link to that down below. So to kick things off, Olivia Reeves, Olympic champion, no sleeves Reeves, 2-time world champion, most recently set new world records, 123, 155 at the World Championships. We know that she's strong in the legs. She just posted an enormous, it's a milestone lift for anybody, a 227 kilo, it's 500 pounds back squat. And it is absolutely insane. She's a 77 kilo weightlifter. Who knows what she was weighing? She might have been weighing 79 kilos, so I think that even at the World Championships, she was still underweight, making her way up. So probably around 77. To be hitting those kind of weights is extraordinary. I know that when it was posted, USA Weightlifting commented on it and started tagging ESPN, and then I saw them get involved, and I think I even saw them posting about it. It is rare for a weightlifter to sort of break into the world ether of sport beyond the platform, but she certainly did it. Next up, we have 3 lifts from the one and only Keydomar Vallenilla, the Olympic medalist from Venezuela back in Tokyo. Now, we know him as somebody who's competed at 89, then he went up to 96, back down to 89, and now, there was a chance that maybe he was going to go 94. I think he's going to stick 89, especially with the new weight classes coming, which we'll talk about soon. But he just posted 3 lifts that I think looked amazing. The first of which was a 205 kilo clean and jerk. Looked very easy. Most excitingly, though, was a 180 kilo block snatch. Now, that's not the only 180 kilo block snatch we've seen this week, and it's certainly not done by the lightest person either, but it's still absolutely incredible. I mean, the most we've ever seen from Keydomar in the snatch is 178 kilos. Back in 2022 he did. But more recently, if you can get into those sort of low 170s, that's great. So if he is working out at about 88 kilos or looking to compete in that 88 kilo class, this 180 block snatch is massive. I mean, the world record right now is 177 by Jason Lopez. And last time Keydomar and Jason Lopez competed against each other was at the Pan American Championships this last summer. And Keydomar beat Jason Lopez, who went on to become world champion. Keydomar didn't turn up to that competition. He is training for the Bolivarian Games, which are happening pretty soon, along with some other incredible games competitions, which we'll get to next time. And then the last lift from him, a 300 kilo back squat triple. Not bad, really not bad. Okay, moving up from Venezuela to the USA, we have Ryan McDonald, who I think is making his Weightlifting House News Show debut with this. So he's an 81 kilo weightlifter. He trains out of Garage Strength under Dane Miller, and he just posted a 189 kilo clean and jerk. He's such a good lifter, and he provides a lot of hope for the tall boys out there, I suppose, is what you could say. One of the reasons we posted him is actually because in the Weightlifting House newsletter, which you can sign up for down below, a few months ago we asked, who are you most excited about at the moment? And I think he actually won that vote, which was incredible and an eye-opener for me. So we're going to talk about him a bit more. Next up, we have the 14-year-old Emily Ibanez. Some of you will remember her. She's done ridiculous things in the past. We've talked about her on news shows over this last year. and she just kind of did it again. Competed 96 kilos in the snatch, 121 kilos in the clean and jerk, and it's a squat jerk, which just makes it a little bit more exciting. I don't know her body weight, but you know what? It kind of doesn't matter. When you're 14 years old and you're a girl and you're lifting these numbers, you can be any body weight in the world and it's still remarkable. I think she's probably coming in somewhere in the low 60s. Maybe she's a 63, something like that. But it's kind of, her body weight is irrelevant to the fact that she's lifted these numbers, and they're absolutely staggering. So huge shout out to her. Okay, very quick one now is going to be we're heading all the way actually back over to Asia. Nurgissa Adiletuly, the 2024 world champion in the 96s. So he's just competed at the Islamic Games. We're going to do an episode talking about the Islamic Games along with Chinese National Games, probably next week. He just competed there and he won. But before competition, he posted a really, really nice 215 kilo clean and jerk from training. Looked awesome, certainly worth mentioning. When I saw it, I thought to myself, is there a world in which we see Nurgissa actually go for a world record clean and jerk, 223? It's not a weight we've seen from him before. I think this is a real jump back. I think we saw him do 181, 219 for his best ever total. So 219, I think, is the most we've seen. So 223 to move ahead of Carlos's world record, it was always going to be unlikely, and he didn't do it in the end. But based on the 215, I kind of figured maybe it was possible. Okay, next up, we have truly one of the most insane lifts. We're going to talk about the up-and-comer, can you even call him that? It's Abdo Younes from Egypt. This guy, there was so much hype built about him recently, and he lifted incredibly well at the World Championships. He took 2 shots at the world record snatch, 167. You'll remember he got called to press outs there, and he's just so much fun. He's a bundle of energy. In fact, a lot of you will remember him for wearing that t-shirt, because that was the t-shirt that he wore in training quite a few times, the technical tee, which you can get now at weightliftinghouse.com in the Black Friday sale. And he just posted, some of you will have already seen. So I'm not going to talk about the world records that he just hit at the Islamic Games. We'll do that in the next episode. He posted 2 big lifts in training. The first of which was a 150 kilo close grip snatch. Now that is actually remarkable for a 79. I mean, if we were looking at another 79, somebody like Rizky Jinyancha, I apologize, I've been getting the name wrong for a while now, Rizky Jinyancha, or Rahmat Abdullah, if we saw them snatch 150, that would be exciting enough. How did it look? What do we think they can make because of it? But to see him doing a true close grip snatch, the kind of weight that we see Gorman Asyan or Vrazdat Lalian doing for a close grip snatch is insane. He actually did that with the white be normal t-shirt, the Carlos Nassar I Win You Lose belt, and the unbelievable leggings, which the way we're doing Black Friday at the moment, by the way, I'm just going to go into this as a very quick spiel, is you can get up to 40% off everything. Everything starts off at 20% off, and then with each additional item that you add to your order, to your basket, you get another 5% off your total order. So if you were to want to look exactly like Abdo Younes and get those 3 items, you get 30% off that entire order, plus free shipping. So I'm going to put all of that down below. Our products are incredible. I stand by them. I mean, our clothing is insane. Our accessories are second to none, so you can check those out at the link down below. That's up to 40% off everything. The next lift that Abdo did, I mean, this one is the kicker. This is the one that is the mind blower, the heartbreaker, if you will. He did a 180 kilo block snatch. I mean, let's think about this for a second. Let's do some maths real quick. The world standard is 165 kilos. So his 167 kilo attempts at the World Championships were 2 kilos over the world standard. That's 15 kilos over the world standard. Of course, it's off blocks. A lot of people lift more off blocks. I remember, this is not particularly interesting for many of you. Before I could even crack 100 kilos in the snatch, I remember I managed to get my block snatch over 100 kilos, and then my next session back at the floor, I went and I hit 100. So make of that what you will. It's not really relevant to this because I'm so much weaker than these guys. But even so, even at the highest level, guys like Ilya, as a 94, he block snatched 200. Then in competition, it was more like 186. As a 105, he block snatched 205, and then he managed 191 in competition. So a lot of athletes can do more. Dmitry Klokov attempted 214 off blocks. His best in competition was 196. So it's not the same, but even so, 180 off blocks is so extraordinary. I mean, it's 3 kilos more than Liu Gigachad's world record at 77 kilos. It's equal to the most that Liu Gigachad ever hit in training, although he did do it from the floor and he was a 77, not a 79. But even the fact that we are talking about this lift in relationship to other enormous, some of the best lifts of all time is it's kind of staggering, really. Next off, we're going to head back over to the USA. We've got a few US athletes here today, actually. Ella Nicholson, she's weighing around 80 kilos. I think I guess she's now either a 77 or an 86, I'm not sure, but she weighs about 80 kilos. The first thing she did was she set a new clean and jerk record at 137 kilos. But then she came back maybe a week later, beat it again with 138 kilos, but coupled it with a 114 kilo snatch. Not many women in the USA, not many women in the world can snatch 114 kilos, but 114, 138, that was a 6 kilo personal best in the total for her. And it just feels like this crop of USA weightlifting talent, not just on the women's side, but maybe particularly on the women's side, Miranda Ulray, Sofia Shaft, some of these athletes coming through who maybe weren't massive players last time, but certainly are becoming that this time is kind of amazing. So I just wanted to highlight how cool her progress has been at the moment. Next up, we have June Sipaia, one of the funnest athletes to commentate on in competition. She's absolutely awesome. She comes from Samoa, plus 86 kilo lifter, and she hit 2 personal bests. The first was a 161 kilo block clean and jerk, and then maybe like a week later, she set another record in the exact same lift at 165 kilos. Now, 165, I mean, if you clean and jerk 165 at the World Championships, you get a medal. And unless it's like, China's out in full force and the 2 South Koreans and Emily Campbell are all lifting their absolute all-time bests. But basically, in any other normal competition, in fact, I wonder if 165 hasn't been a clean and jerk world medal since probably 2019 would be the last time, although Tatiana did bomb out. So maybe even there was Meng Su Ping, there was a North Korean. I mean, it's up there basically. And we haven't really seen her up there at that kind of world level before. At a Commonwealth level, for sure. Oceania level, absolutely. But to be hitting that kind of world medal level is pretty insane. So huge lifting from her. Okay, back again. I said we're going to do more USA. The fella, the one and only, we love him over here at Weightlifting House. We think he's a big talent. Caden Cahoy, 79 kilo Caden Cahoy. To my mind, kind of burst onto the scene at the European Championships 2024, because remember, Team USA competed at the European Championships rather than going to Venezuela. And I remember thinking how well he looked, how well he did, and how good he looked at 73. Then he went to the World Cup, did pretty well there, but wasn't able to qualify for the Olympics. Now we're in conversations on the podcast, that sort of thing, about whether he can even medal at the Olympics. He's certainly in the hunt for it. He took an attempted world record clean and jerk, for crying out loud, at the last World Champs. So anyway, what has he done? A high hang snatch plus a low hang snatch at 150. Now bear in mind, he's the same category as Rizky, Rahmat, Shijiong, Ri Chong Song, Abdo Younes, these guys. And like I said, if we saw either of the Indonesians doing anything like this, we'd be so excited. And the way he did it, I thought looked wonderful. He then went on to do I think it was 180 for maybe a hang clean plus clean and jerk or some kind of complex around that weight. But yeah, just looked really smooth, really slick. Sticking with the same category again, how have we not mentioned him? It's Alexey Churkin from Kazakhstan. Now, some of you might not remember him. He took silver medal at the World Championships last year in Bahrain 2024. He didn't come to this World Champs, and we were like, okay, fine, you're pulling a Nurgissa, you're pulling a Antropov, and you're saving it for the Islamic Games. But then he didn't go to the Islamic Games either, so I don't quite know what's going on there. But he just snatched 167 kilos from the floor. That is the weight that Abdo missed at the World Championships. That would be a world record. He didn't do it in competition. It doesn't mean anything. It's exciting. I mean, that class is crazy. And as you're going to find out, that class is kind of going to have to split up, actually, with the new weight categories. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I also know where some of these athletes are going to go because I've spoken to them. So I'll inform you on that a little bit later. But yeah, 167. You know that must have been an intentional choice of a number. It must have been. I mean, maybe it wasn't, but I feel like it was. Okay, next up, Luis Lauret. So he's a 110, used to lift for Cuba, now lifts for Romania. Medaled actually at the World Championships, I think, in the snatch. Did he take a... Must have been a bronze. Could have been a silver. He just made 190. Well, he didn't just make it. This is a lift that he just posted. He did it before the World Championships, but looks incredible. Such a strong guy. It's going to be really exciting to see what happens now at the European Championships, because we've got him, Marcos Ruiz, Simone, Garrick, Dadash, Yevgeny Tsikantsu. Like that class within Europe is pretty crazy. It's popping off. So yeah, throwing his 190 snatch into the mix, very exciting. Sofia Shaft, she the US athlete, 63. She just squat jerked 120 kilos, which is interesting. So she's obviously a split jerker. I always quite enjoy seeing split jerkers switch to squat jerk to see what they can do. She can do 120, and I thought it was interesting because Iryna Dombrovska, the Ukrainian 77, who's a squat jerker, who, by the way, I posted a clip of her. We posted a clip of her on YouTube a few weeks ago of her hitting a squat jerk at the World Championships. It's got something like 6 or 7 or 800,000 views on YouTube, which just shows the interest that people have in the squat jerk. It's kind of amazing. But Iryna Dombrovska, the squat jerker, just tried split jerking, so they kind of traded disciplines and only managed 115 kilos. So Sofia Shaft is better at squat jerking than Iryna Dombrovska is at split jerking, and she's a weight class below. But anyway, I thought that little switch up was kind of exciting. And then the final lift, before we get on to some really big news with regards to the weight classes, is Liu Gigachad Huanhua. Liu Huanhua, aka Gigachad, just jerked 240 kilos off the blocks. Now, I say just, as far as I can tell, this is a recent video, but I'm not 100% sure. 240, it's 3 or 4 kilos over the world standard in the 110 kilo class. The most we've seen in that category so far is 232 from Akbar at the World Championships. It's an absolutely massive lift. Is he going to go up to 110? Is he going to go down to the new class, which is 95? I'll break the silence. You're only going to have to wait 2 minutes to find out. I don't know. A lot of people saying he should go up and battle it out with Akbar rather than go down and fight it out with Carlos. We've spoken about it extensively on the Weightlifting House podcast, which you can check out, Spotify, or all the podcasting platforms. We talk about these things every single week. But it's a huge lift and certainly worth mentioning. And I assume he'll be competing in the next few days at the Chinese National Games. So we're going to find out what kind of shape he's in and what sort of body weight he's moving towards. Anyway, that's it from the list. Let's talk about the new weight classes. Okay, so the IWF has announced a new batch of weight classes, and it's confirmed the ones that we're going to see at the next Olympic Games. Now, some of you might be saying, yeah, we already know this. They announced this a few months ago. No, scratch that. They wiped them again, and they're reinstating new ones. Not reinstating, they're installing. We've got new weight categories. They're not coming into effect until August of next year, but they are going to be the official weight categories of this sort of Olympic qualifying cycle. So they'll come into effect from August, which means that the first Olympic qualifying event, which I believe will be the World Championships in China next year, October, November, will be with these new categories. So let's just run through what these new categories are. Then we'll talk about why it's happened, some of the sort of the oddities around it, the things that don't make sense to me or the things that I initially thought looked a little bit strange. And then we'll talk about lifters like Abdo and Rahmat and try and work out where they're going to go. Hint, I know where they're going to go because I've asked them. So the new categories on the men's side, 60, 65, 70, 75, 85, 95, 110, plus 110. And the Olympic classes, we just get rid of the 60 and the 70. So it's 65, 75, 85, 95, 110, plus 110. The women's categories, 49, 53, 57, 61, 69, 77, 86, plus 86. And then again, we get rid of the 49 and 57s. So the Olympic classes are 53, 61, 69, 77, 86, and plus 86. Okay, so basically in December of 2024, the IWF announced that the categories that we've grown familiar with since 2018 were going to be replaced. Then in April of 2025, the Olympics announced that actually weightlifting's presence at the Olympics wasn't going to be expanded, i.e. they weren't going to add a new Olympic category. We were going to be stuck with 5 men and 5 women like we were the previous Olympic quad. And obviously this actually caused a bit of trouble because the IWF had assumed that there was going to be an expansion because they'd been following the guidelines and doing all the things that the IOC had been telling them to do in order to increase their kind of footprint at the Olympic Games. So then in some point around June, I think it was, they released the new weight categories. And so we were then trying to figure out, okay, which are going to be the 5 weight classes within these weight categories that will go to the Olympic Games. And we actually saw some competitions take place with these new weight categories. We had the Pan American Championships, and of course we just had the World Championships in Norway, and they use this new set of categories, which we kind of assumed, okay, they're going to stick with these now until the Olympic Games. But then we found out that actually the Olympics were going to approve one additional weight class per gender. So that now meant that instead of having 5 men's classes and 5 women's classes at the Olympics, we'd have 6 and 6. So then we're looking at this current set of weight classes that we've kind of been getting used to over the last few months, trying to work out how they're going to add a 6th category, how's it going to work. The spacing is all really weird. And in the end, we then find out just moments ago, a few days ago, that actually what they're going to do is reinstate a whole new slew of weight classes. So we're going to have these current ones that we're in now for basically a year, and then they're all going to change again. So two quick interesting points. This is going to be the shortest lifespan of any weight classes that the sport has ever seen. You know, it's basically 15 months in total. Something else is that the IWF has not released new standards for these new weight categories. So we don't know what the world standards, or basically a world standard is a number above which a world record can become official. So we don't know what those barriers are going to be. And hopefully they're not going to be quite as low as they were for this most recent World Championships, where we had 10 world records in a single session in the men's 71s, which was a bit ridiculous. Some of the oddities that I kind of noticed when looking at these classes, one of them was that everybody was complaining, quite rightly, about the jump between the 94 kilo class and the 110 kilo class, because it's like, that is too big of a jump. 16 kilos between those sorts of athletes is kind of crazy. And for the 102s from the last Olympic quad, making a choice between 94 and 110 was pretty tough. So we thought, okay, new weight categories, they have an option to now change this and fix it. And so they quite rightly, we thought they were going to say that 16 kilo jump is too big, therefore we need to fix that. We need to remedy it. It's too big a jump for these athletes. And they did have that thought, and they made it smaller. So they went from 16 kilos to 15 kilos. So now we have a 95 to 110 kilo jump, which is a hilariously bad attempt at fixing that problem. Something else worth mentioning, there have been fewer changes made to the women's classes. Actually, 5 of the new 8 have remained unchanged. So we already had the 53, 69, 77, 86 and plus 86 kilo class, and those have remained. The middle 4 men's categories of the previous 8 are the ones that have undergone the biggest changes, and they were the ones that probably needed to undergo the most change because the last set of categories was a little bit awkward. Another interesting thing is that the non-Olympic classes have been taken from the lighter end of the 8 categories. So they took 2 away from the 8 to leave 6 Olympics, and it's the first and third lightest that have been taken away from the men's and the women's side. This was something that in weightlifting circles it was presumed would be impossible because there was so much, it's not lobbying, but so much power from the Asian countries who perform so well. And obviously within Asia, you tend to get the smaller athletes. Lighter categories are dominated by Asian countries, and so it was sort of deemed impossible that you would get rid of those classes, but somehow they have done. The lightest man now is going to have to be 65 kilos, lightest woman will be 53 kilos. And then my last point before I talk about who I've spoken with about what they're going to do is that these categories, particularly on the men's side, don't seem particularly scientifically done. It doesn't sound like they've taken a normally distributed sample of athletes' body weights, where you have more athletes in the middle, and then try and create weight categories around that with the same percentage of people within each gap. Because the fact that they've landed on multiples of 5s and then 10s and then they jump to 15s as the gap is kind of crazy. I mean, 60, 65, 70, 75. And then they're like, okay, we've done our 5 kilo jumps, now let's do 10 kilo jumps. 85, 95. Okay, now we're getting heavier. Let's do a 15 kilo jump, 110, and now let's go super. I can't imagine that those are the numbers that came out of whatever science equation or graph they were using. It must be that they've just used them because they sound good, which I don't think is quite the right way to create a weight category system within a sport. That's just my opinion. Okay, so I spoke with Abdo, and I didn't, but Nick spoke with Rahmat to ask what weight categories they were going to go to, because the 79s have to choose, do we come back down to 75 or do we go up to 85? Rahmat said that 85 probably a bit too big for him, so he's going to come back down. Obviously, he's a 73, went up to 79, he'll come back down to 75. We believe that Rizky is going to do the same, so the whole Indonesian duo battle will begin again. And then Abdo, he says he's actually going to go up. He was at one point in 81, he dropped to 79, so actually going up to 85. I said 175, 215, and he said more. So we'll see. I can definitely see the 175. I think 215 will be a push for him, but seeing him competing with guys like Jason Lopez or Marin Robu, who will be coming down to 85, very, very exciting. By the way, everything that I've spoken about here in today's episode, we discuss each week in the Weightlifting House newsletter. So you can get the biggest lifts, athlete interviews, and breaking news. You get it all early before it comes out on these sorts of videos. You can sign up and join tens of thousands of weightlifters just like you at the link down below. Okay, let's very quickly run through what we think are maybe the top 5 performances or lifts from the European Junior and Under 23s. The return of the Italian, Sergio Masida, he looked great at 65 kilos, 134, 165. Yusuf Genç, who obviously set a world record at the World Championships, he just competed 150, 190. That's a 340 kilo total. Mahela Kambe, who just had a personal best in the Snatch at the World Champs, did it again, this time 95 kilos in the Snatch. Huge, so she went 95, 110. The 95 is a European senior record. Alexandra Grigorian, who's moved from 53 to 58, she set a junior European record in the clean and jerk, 123. And then Janetta Lasoini from Finland, the 77, she just hit a new personal best in the clean and jerk as well at 135 kilos. The top 3 lifts from this week, in my opinion, are, in no particular order, Abdo Younes, 180 kilo block snatch, Olivia Reeves, 500 pounds, 227 kilo back squat, and Alexey Churkin, 167 kilo snatch from the floor as a 79 kilo weightlifter. Let me know down below which you think is the most impressive lift of the week, and we'll do this again next week. Don't forget, the Weightlifting House Black Friday sale is now live. I'll put a link to that down below, along with links to everything else that's important. We appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you all next week on another episode of the Weightlifting House News Show.